Hello and welcome to Ani's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Case of the Singing Teapot. In the heart of a sleepy town nestled between rolling hills, there stood a quaint little cafe known as the Whistling Brew. Its charm lay not just in the aroma of freshly brewed tea or the clinking of porcelain cups, but in its peculiar centerpiece, a singing teapot that trilled a lilting melody whenever the water inside reached a rolling boil. This delightful oddity, perched atop a vintage stove behind the counter, drew locals and tourists alike to the cozy establishment. The cafe's walls, adorned with sepia-toned photographs and mismatched shelves, boasted an eclectic collection of antique teapots, each with its own story. Among them, one stood out, an ornate silver teapot edged with swirling vines, rumored to have once belonged to a forgotten poet. Inside it, a hidden compartment held a rare diamond, a secret known only to the cafe's owner, Mr. Thompson. On a quiet Tuesday afternoon, the cafe hummed with its usual rhythm. Holly Arnold, a sharp-witted college student who worked part-time behind the counter, wiped down tables with a practiced ease. At 19, she balanced her studies in literature with her shifts at the Whistling Brew, her dark hair often pulled into a messy bun that she twirled absent-mindedly when lost in thought. Mysteries were her passion. She devoured detective novels between classes and had an uncanny knack for noticing what others missed. Today, though, the cafe felt different. A stillness hung in the air, broken only by the chatter of a few regulars, Mrs. Ellis, knitting in her corner, and Mr. Jenkins, engrossed in his newspaper. Then it happened. The singing teapot, which Holly had filled moments earlier, began to whistle. But this wasn't its usual cheerful tune, a bright cascade of notes that reminded her of a spring morning. No, this melody was strange, haunting, almost discordant, weaving through the air like a riddle begging to be solved. Heads turned. Mrs. Ellis dropped a stitch. Mr. Jenkins lowered his paper. Even Holly froze, her cloth dangling over a table, as the eerie sound filled the room. Mr. Thompson muttered, emerging from the kitchen with flour-dusted hands. He squinted at the teapot as if it had betrayed him. Before anyone could investigate, the moment passed. The tune faded, the teapot settled into silence, and the cafe returned to its sleepy hum. Holly shook her head, chalking it up to a quirk of the old contraption, and resumed her work. But later, as she dusted the display case near the counter, something caught her eye. The silver antique teapot, the prized gem of Mr. Thompson's collection, looked off. The vines seemed less intricate, the sheen a touch too dull. She frowned, running a finger along its edge. It felt lighter, too. "Mr. Thompson," she called. He shuffled over, wiping his hands on his apron, and peered at the teapot through his bifocals. "That's not it," he said. "That's a fake." A fake? That meant someone had swapped the real teapot, the one with the hidden diamond, right under their noses. She glanced back at the singing teapot, its odd tune echoing in her memory. Could it have been a distraction? Her pulse quickened. This was no coincidence. This was a mystery, and she was going to solve it. The investigation begins. Holly wasted no time. She grabbed her notebook, a battered leather journal she kept tacked under the counter, and jotted down everything she remembered about the afternoon. The strange tune. The distracted customers. The teapot swap. She needed suspects, clues, a plan. Mr. Thompson, still reeling, filled her in on the antique secret, the diamond hidden in a compartment beneath its base, a family heirloom passed down for generations. Only he and his late wife had known about it, or so he thought. Someone must have found out, Holly mused. But who? She started with the obvious. Mrs. Ellis, a sweet old widow, seemed unlikely. She could barely lift her knitting bag, let alone orchestrate a heist. Mr. Jenkins, a gruff retiree, had been engrossed in his paper, though he'd glanced up at the sound. Then there was Sarah, Holly's co-worker and friend, who'd been in the kitchen prepping scones. And a new face, a man in a grey coat who'd lingered by the counter, asking Sarah odd questions about the singing teapot before leaving abruptly after the tune played. Holly's first move was to examine the fake teapot. It was a decent replica, but not perfect. The silver was too shiny, lacking the pattern of age, and the clay inside the base had a faint earthy scent, fresh, not old. She scraped a tiny sample with her fingernail and tucked it into a napkin. This could tell me where it came from. Next, she questioned Sarah. Holly asked, leaning against the kitchen doorway. Sarah brushed floor off her apron, frowning. Well, that guy in the grey coat was nosy, kept asking how the singing teapot worked, like he was fascinated by it. Oh, and he dropped something, a business card, I think. I handed it back to him. Said Grace and antiques on it. An antique dealer? That was too perfect. She thanked Sarah and turned her attention to the singing teapot itself. Had someone tampered with it? She lifted its lid, peering inside, but saw nothing unusual, just the whistle mechanism nestled in the spout. Still, that strange tune nagged at her. It wasn't random. It felt deliberate. Following the trail. By evening, Holly had a lead. Grayson Antiques was a small shop 2 streets over, its windows cluttered with dusty relics. She slipped out of the cafe after her shift, the chill of dusk wrapping around her as she approached the storefront. Through the glass, she saw a man, grey coat, grey hair, polishing a brass candlestick. Mr. Grayson, no doubt. She entered, the bell above the door jingling. Hi, I'm writing an article for my college paper about antique teapots. Mind if I ask you some questions? Mr. Grayson looked up. Sure, miss, what do you want to know? Holly improvised. As they talked, she scanned the shop. No sign of the stolen teapot yet. Then, on a whim, she hummed the strange tune from earlier, letting the notes drift through the air. Mr. Grayson froze mid-sentence, his polishing cloth slipping from his hand. Where'd you hear that? He asked. Oh, just something I picked up, Holly said casually. His reaction was all the confirmation she needed. He knew that tune and it tied him to the theft. Pressing her advantage, she said, You were at the Whistling Brew today, weren't you? Asking about the singing teapot. Mr. Grayson's jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. This teapot, she gestured to a random one on the shelf, bluffing. It's made with the same clay as the fake one left in our display case. I traced it to a supplier you've used. And that tune, you rigged the singing teapot to play it, didn't you? A distraction while you swapped the real one. Mr. Grayson's shoulders slumped, and after a long silence, he sighed. I didn't want to. Someone paid me to do it, made the fake, told me when to switch it. It said it'd be quick. Holly pressed. Mr. Lark owns Lark's Nest down the road. He's been losing business to your cafe ever since that singing teapot gimmick started pulling crowds. A rival cafe owner. It made sense, petty, vindictive sense. She thanked Mr. Grayson, promising to keep his name out of it if he helped her get the teapot back, and left with a new target, Mr. Lark. The final brew. Lark's Nest was a stark contrast to the Whistling Brew. Sleek and modern, it lacked the warmth of its rival, though it tried to compensate with overpriced lattes and a garish neon sign. Holly stepped inside the next day, her notebook swapped for a camera part of her cover story. She spotted it almost immediately, the silver teapot, vines and all, sitting on a shelf behind the counter like a trophy. Excuse me, she said to Mr. Lark. I'm doing a piece on local cafes for my school paper. That teapot's gorgeous. Can I take a closer look? Mr. Lark hesitated. Go ahead. Just don't drop it. Holly lifted the teapot. It was heavy, authentic, the real deal. She turned it over, feigning curiosity, and pressed the hidden catch Mr. Thompson had described. A small panel slid open, revealing the diamond, a glittering speck against the silver. Mr. Lark's eyes widened. How did you? Holly finished, her voice steady. Because this teapot belongs to the Whistling Brew. Mr. Thompson's the only one who knows its secret. You had Mr. Grayson steal it, didn't you, to sabotage us? Mr. Lark sputtered. That's ridiculous. I bought this fair and square. Then why is it identical to ours? Holly held up her camera, snapping a photo of the open compartment. I've got proof. Return it. So I take this to the police. Cornered. Fine, take it. I don't need the hassle. She called Mr. Thompson, who arrived minutes later, his presence sealing the deal. Grudgingly, Mr. Lark handed over the teapot, muttering about meddling kids. Holly smirked. She'd heard worse. A melody restored. Back at the Whistling Brew, Mr. Thompson cradled the teapot like a lost child, the diamond glinting in his palm. Holly, you're a wonder, he said. Solving it was enough, she replied. The next day, the singing teapot whistled its familiar tune bright and clear, no haunting notes this time. Holly listened, satisfied, as customers smiled and the cafe buzzed with life. She'd brewed up a solution with nothing but her wits, and that, she thought, was sweeter than any tea. And so, Holly Arnold, the young detective of the Whistling Brew, added another tale to her notebook, a case closed with a melody and a diamond's gleam. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.